My name is Ann Sermons Gillis, and I am a member of Unity of Charleston. Today, we have a special guest. We have a new portion of our program called Meet the Friends of Unity. I want to welcome a friend of Unity and tell you that we've met the staff, we've met the board, we've met the minister, and you don't have to be a member of Unity to be a part of the Unity community. We don't force anybody to commit. We don't tell you what you have to do. If you want to join, you can. If you don't want to join, you don't have to. But everyone is welcome to be a part of the community. So today, I'd like to welcome a friend of Unity. This is Shawn Backus. Welcome, Shawn.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, good. I'm glad you're here. And we're going to get started at the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in Panama City, Florida. Didn't spend much time there. My dad was in the Air Force at the time, and we were there. That was close to where my mom was from, and I don't really have any experience there, but that's where I was born.
So did you move when you were young?
Yeah, so we moved. The main place, we probably moved a couple different places, but the main place, my dad was he was in the Air Force, and he specialized. So fortunately, we didn't move a whole lot. So I mainly was raised in Cheyenne, Wyoming, until I was 8 years old, and then we moved here in 1979 and have been here ever since. I grew up in the Somerville area, graduated from R.B. Stahl High School, right in North Charleston. And,
So do you still live in Somerville, or where do you live in this area?
No, I live in James Island. Pretty early on, I realized that, I liked it, the downtown James Island area. So I moved out there. I moved around a little bit in my 20s, but, moved back to Florida, moved to, New Orleans, stuff like that. But found my way, back to James Island, and lived downtown James Island. And, I did buy a house out in Somerville to run a construction company out of for some years. And then when I sold that, I moved back out to James Island. So.
Okay. Well, are you single? Are you married?
I'm not married, but I do have a girlfriend or significant other, partner.
A partner. Okay. That's wonderful. Well, what about your career? What do you do?
So I'm an engineer, but I've only, it's something that I definitely did a little bit later in life. I do construction by trade, and, done that most of my adult life. And in about 2015, I just, was trying to decide whether I wanted to expand the business or, I'd always had this bucket list of getting my engineering degree. And you just started checking into it, and just things just started lining up just so easily, and somebody that believes in like the law of attraction and those principles. And, it was just as I followed that positive thought towards it, all these little roads just quickly just opened up for me. And 4 years later, I had an engineering degree, you know what I mean? And so even getting the degree, I didn't necessarily want to be an engineer, but I figured I would follow the path and get the full experience. So I've been doing that for the last 4 years, and it's been an experience.
Well, congratulations. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, it is, and I'm somebody that likes to experience things. I don't know, I can't promise you if you ask me a year from now that I'm going to still be an engineer. My mind always wonders, but right now that's what I'm doing. And, who knows, 10 years from now it might still be, but, yeah, it's just.
You have reinvented yourself, and you're open to being reinvented again.
Absolutely. I am.
Open-minded. Well, could you tell us a little bit about your spiritual search, when that started and how that evolved?
Yeah, so I didn't come from necessarily a religious family. but yet my mom always put us, we would go to church as a family fairly often, but definitely not an every Sunday thing, but she would push us to go to Sunday school. I was thinking about this before, after you asked me this, and of course I've thought about it in the past. And so anyway, so I grew up around the church, and a lot of youth ministry and all that. And
what kind of church was that?
So anything from Southern Baptist, probably everything leaning on the Southern Baptist, but mostly non-denominational to Southern Baptist. A lot of Bible, I would say Bible-based, what, churches that call themselves Bible-based, more about the Bible than about being a particular sect of, Christianity, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So, I got brought up around that, and, repeat your question again. Where did it?
Yeah, where'd your journey start, this spiritual journey?
So, and that was definitely it. Like so many, as soon as I came into Unity and started talking to people, what I've heard so many times, from a lot of different people was, I don't think I heard the same thing as everybody else about, at church. I mostly just heard, I say that's probably not true, but I heard the loving God. You know what I mean? From the very beginning, I understood the Bible, the Bible to be stories, great stories to live by. I think I understood that at an early age. As I was going back and thinking about this, I was thinking about one of my earliest memories that always sticks in my head was a conversation I had with a friend of mine. We were laying in his backyard. They had a big open field, and we were like 9 years old, and we were talking about Santa Claus, about believing in Santa Claus. It's like, hey, do you believe in Santa Claus? And I remember saying, like, I believe in the story of Santa Claus. You know what I mean? That I believe that, and that I think that it's okay to believe in Santa Claus, but, at the same time, I was saying it was a story. You know what I mean? That it wasn't, necessarily true, but it's okay to believe in him, and I guess, and I think that was the first time. I think I'd already had those early feelings and thoughts in my head at that time, and I think those were the same thoughts I had about God. You know what I mean? And so I think it started early for me.
So you were looking at an expansive God at that point, and you looked at the stories as if the stories are true, but they're not factual.
Right. Okay. Yes. I think that fits pretty good. And I definitely didn't think of this God as some judgmental man in the sky. You know what I mean? I never felt that way. I connected with the little kids songs. I loved it. Brad and I just had said this a few weeks ago, literally the Thursday before Brad and them, they did, the song God holding the whole wide world in his hand. I talked about how that song, like, kind of was one of those songs as a kid that kind of told that gave me this feeling about God that wasn't this judgmental God. You know what I mean? That was going to, send you to hell because you didn't, you believe in God, but maybe you don't believe in Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? Or you're homosexual, but you live this you're just a great person. You know what I mean? Like, I just never believed in this God that could treat somebody like that, and so I don't know. I felt like that started building in me at an early age. I think that conversation with my friend, to me, always indicated, like, when I think back, I'm like, man, I guess I was starting to think that way. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like that was like my first time verbalizing it to somebody, even though it was about Santa Claus. I think it was on it was the same kind of thinking, so anyways.
Yes. And so, so your ideas about God and consciousness and the Bible expanded, and you built on that. Your own sense of wisdom told you, and your intuition told you where to go in your belief system. So how did you find unity? And was that recently, or has it been a while?
No. So, I was wild even at 9 years old. I was wild, ran with wild guys. This other guy that I was talking about, if I told this story to other people, they'd think I was lying. You know what I mean? We just weren't those kind of kids that sit around and have these kind of philosophical conversations. And that continued into my 20s. And, but at the same time, was full of angst, and started looking into, I connected with Zen meditation, at a very early age, right out of high school, and I look back and I don't really know where I even learned about Zen meditation from, but I started going to the library and looking at books and studying it and practicing it. This continued on. I got in some trouble in my 20s. I wasn't planning on sharing this, but I spent some time in the Charleston County Jail right there on Leeds Avenue, and I actually read a book, and it was all for nothing criminal, but it was just for childhood stuff, possession of marijuana, not taking care of the tickets, and some fighting. When I say it's not criminal, I'm not trying to downplay it. It was serious.
You didn't get community service. You had to do a little bit of time.
That's right. It was mainly for just not taking care of my court dates is why they ended up. So in that time period, I can't believe I just shared that on here. But in that time period, I read a book by Dale Carnegie. All I had was this time to read, and I found a book by Dale Carnegie, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And I had the Bible, and I knew how to meditate. And I started doing that practice, in that time that I was in there. And that's all I would do. And I would journal. And it was profoundly life-changing to me. You know what I mean? Because it was the first time I actually had this time to do nothing but practice these things. And so after I got out, and I only spent a little short period of time in there, I started really connecting with and I'd already been doing, I was in my early 20s, and I had never heard of the law of attraction, but I understood it. And anytime I heard anything close to it, I gravitated towards it and started practicing it without anybody ever telling me or teaching me anything about it. Started practicing it, knowing that if I put my mind on something, I could draw it to me, and I would do it I had cool little jobs. I did a job downtown, a pickup delivery service in my early 20s, and then took it to New Orleans. And, and I just thought it was so cool that I could just do these cool little things just by practicing, by just putting my mind to it. And then like The Secret came out years later, and I was like, oh, okay, there's other people that believe in this. And I'm not blowing up The Secret, but it was, but at least it was something that told me that there was other people that connected to this. And then I started finding books that connected me. Early 2000s, a girl I dated took me to Unity. That's probably how me and her connected in our conversation. She took me to Unity. Ed had just started there. I only went a couple times, but that was the beginning. Came back again later for a meditation around 2012, and then just started not really going to Unity. And I don't mean to get too sideways on this, but I started reading about Unity, doing Charles Fillmore podcast, and I just became engrossed in it, and did most of my Unity stuff was through books, reading, about the Fillmores, reading Unity-based books, Eric Butterworth, doing a lot of podcasts, then reading, and then through those podcasts, they turned me on to other books, and I got into, Emily Cady and and even stuff like the Four Agreements and Eckhart Tolle and so I did this whole unity thing and would only pop in and out of unity once in a while. And then in recent years have just tried to get more, wanting to be involved more with the community. So, and then that's just kind of brought me, some some things, have come into my life and have brought me closer to unity. And I'm really grateful for that, and I'm grateful. Yeah. So
I think your story is similar to many people, and that is that we have an inner knowing.
yes.
And we follow that as a guide, and it's spot on. And if we're not interrupted, then we do eventually get to the right place. So I'm really
Right.
glad to hear your story. Now, in all of your travels, I suspect that you have developed a philosophy. So just in a few short sentences, if you could tell us what your philosophy, your spiritual philosophy of life is now.
Um, I believe in the simplicity of life. Think we're all very fortunate to be here. I think the odds of us getting here are just astronomical. What it takes for somebody to actually be born, and just the parents to come together and the grandparents. If you just it's mind-boggling. You couldn't even begin to wrap your head around the likelihood of you ever being able to take this ride on this earth rock. You know what I mean? And so I just trying to enjoy it and take advantage of the experience and not be scared of being here, because I get scared of being here. You know what I mean? Like, you just think you have all these obligations or whatever it is, politics, blah 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 blah, that'll just wear you down. And I just try to remind myself, I'm just lucky to be here. You know what I mean? You don't know how long this ride's going to last. And I really appreciate the principles of unity. I think they're very simple. I like simplicity. I'm a big Eckhart Tolle. We get these fears, and I like the simplicity of him. Just that, whatever that is, staying with it in the moment, being in the moment, not being scared of the feelings that you have, not looking for the outside to change them. That's just it. Just trying to enjoy this ride on this rock, screaming through space, I guess.
Well, it looks like that you approach life with awe and wonder, but you have the wisdom that when you have blocks that you need to explore those and see what's happening, and if you can move past them back to a sense of equanimity and calmness. That's great. Well, you did mention one teacher. I wondered if you had any authors of books that you liked. You mentioned Eckhart Tolle. You perhaps like his books, and it seems like you've read a lot of books. Do you have any really, special books or authors that really maybe touch you?
I don't. Eckhart Tolle, for whatever reason, I really connect with that. To me, it's a simple message. But I have read a whole lot more. Like I said, I've mentioned that, like Eric Butterworth and Emily Cady, and and books like that. And I've read the Abraham Law of Attraction books, and I've enjoyed those. And there's a bunch of them. I don't, I'm not some great, there's a lot of books out there that probably get a whole lot deeper, and I appreciate that, and I'm not against reading them. And I look for books all the time for people to mention them, and I, but I've read so many books that sometimes it's hard, to really even remember them, or I know those are recent ones that I just looked through before we did this. I kind of looked through my online books that I had, and those are some of the ones that I had to bring it to the forefront of my mind. So yeah.
Well, it is smart to read the books that fill us up, that we're energetically in line with. And if the other books, if everybody likes them, but they don't work for us, we really don't need to go there. Now, in this search and in your journey and in your life, have you developed any spiritual practices? And if so, what are they?
Yes, I'm definitely the meditation, is huge in my life. I'm not somebody who gets up every morning and meditates, but I have, at different periods. Because of the practice over the years, I'm able to meditate in motion. So that is something that I definitely practice that is, it's life-changing. I'm really big. I see the groups that do the walking meditations and all that. And I think that's really a really cool thing, to be able to meditate as you're moving. I think it's also good. I love that we meditate on Sundays at Unity and as a group. And I think that's a powerful thing, and I've done the meditations with Ed on when I used to do them on Saturdays in the office, and I've done it a couple times online. So yeah, the meditation, the prayer, and so, yeah, I would say those are my main practices.
Well, those seem to come up again and again, and that is meditation and prayer. They are powerful things, and we certainly make a space and place for those at Unity. Now, I just want to see if we've covered a lot. Is there anything else that you would like to say in closing, or any advice or any thoughts?
I wish I had some great wisdom. I really don't. Yeah, but I do appreciate being asked to do this. Thank you.
Well, I am so glad that you came, Shawn. I appreciate it so much, and we'll see you in church. Take it easy.
Sounds great. All right. Thank you. Bye.